Omar Imady is the Deputy Director of the Center for Syrian Studies at the University of St. Andrew. He joins us now live from London. Omar, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. This is truly a stunning change in U.S. foreign policy, not least because the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces have been America's most reliable partners in Syria. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, yes, I think it shouldn't be really a surprise because we've heard about this over possibly a year and a half. President Trump has implied that he's willing to do this. The Kurds were caught by surprise. They started negotiating with the Syrian regime, then it quieted down, and now it's back. I think it would be a mistake for anyone to really feel that they can trust a cohesive, principled American policy in the region. There is none. It fluctuates, and it has a lot to do with whatever particular security interests may be at stake at a particular moment. So to build upon this, the idea that you can have a region that is protected and possibly create a nucleus for a state is proven to be a very significant mistake.
Now, we're talking here about 1,000 American troops who are already pulling out from the region. What kind of effect will this have there on the ground?
Well, I think to a large extent, the presence of American troops is symbolic. It's not so much how many they are. It's the idea that they are there. And because they are there, then there are limitations on what others can do. Turkey cannot advance into an area that has even 20 American soldiers, let alone 1,000. So in so doing, when they withdraw, they're given a green light, and the green light then creates. And this notion of a safe zone is ancient. Is about 8 years old. We've been hearing about Turkey wanting to create a safe zone for refugees, for Syrians, but of course it's also trying to push back what it regards, because in the eyes of Turkey, to have Kurds as close to its borders, and then there's Kurds on the other side of the border, then this creates, a security problem in the sense that they might come together and entirely redraw the borders of Turkey as we know it. So this is how, the Turkish geopolitical prism of how to see this is playing out, and there's so much at work. But what's really ironic, if I may, is that lost in this story is the very basic element of Syrians. Where do Syrians fit into this? They seem to be nothing but a footnote here. We're talking about Turkey advancing to sovereign Syrian territory. We're talking about Americans giving them the green light. We're talking about Kurds feeling stabbed in the back and disappointed. And then once, for a second, has to almost remind him or herself that we are talking about Syria, and one wonders, where do Syrians fit into this scenario?
Well, that's a very good question. Where do the Syrians fit in?
Well, unfortunately, no one seems to be, focused on that. No one seems to be focused on the idea that here we are 8 years later, and we are yet to initiate a cohesive, systematic process of political transition. We are yet to agree. We've spent 2 or 3 years agreeing on a constitutional committee, which is yet to begin, work, which we still have disagreements on its authority and on its mandate. President Assad's re-election is almost coming up, and we are, so here we are. At what point does the Syrian story, which is supposed to be the foundation for all these stories, become the true attention of the international community? I think this is what's lost in translation, so to speak. And now we find ourselves consumed with a mutation, almost a mutation of a mutation. And of course, notwithstanding that, it will have a humanitarian price, as all these mutations do. Again, we will have to be concerned about all the civilians that will be, caught up in these border conflicts, etc.
Absolutely. Omar, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. Omar Imady, the Deputy Director for the Center for Syrian Studies at the University of St. Andrew.
Thank you.
Next to Tunisia.